customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. In this week's episode, John talks with legend of corporate culture, Chuck Runyon. As the CEO and co-founder of Self Esteem Brands, which includes Anytime Fitness, Chuck has created one of the most amazing internal work cultures for his employees and franchisees. How amazing? Well, more than 5,000 employees and customers have Anytime Fitness tattoos. In this episode, you'll learn the purpose and vision of Self Esteem Brands, why employee culture is their obsession, what are the 4 Ps and how they drive everything Self Esteem Brands does, how they navigated the pandemic which crushed the fitness industry, how a world-class experience starts at headquarters, and how they're dealing with the Great Resignation era and the gig economy. Now here's your host, John DiJulius.
Hello, revolutionaries. This is John DiJulius, Chief Revolution Officer of the DiJulius Group, and welcome to another episode of the Customer Service Revolution. And today I have the amazing Chuck Runyon, CEO and co-founder of Self Esteem Brands. The list is too long. They own so many companies. The one that you're going to be most familiar with is Anytime Fitness. We've had Chuck speak. To me, he's the cultural guru of just creating a world-class place that people love to come to work. And we've had Chuck speak several years ago at the Customer Service Revolution. He was the highest rated speaker that year, which really pissed me off because we have professional speakers that do this all the time, and Chuck just walks on the stage and crushes it. So Chuck has a lot of accolades. I think that's probably his number one accolade. Chuck, you probably tell people that you spoke at the Customer Service Revolution right after you talk about your awesome wife and 4 kids. Welcome, Chuck.
Thanks, Johnny. It's been a while, man. Good to see you and good to speak to everyone out there.
And the people ask, well, if you're so good, why didn't you have him back? Is because Claudia has a crush on him and I don't like it. But Chuck, it's so good. I know your last 2 years have been probably pretty boring and, not a lot going on. And no, you like restaurants, like cruise lines were affected more than anyone else. And I know that was a trying time and I can't wait to hear how you went through it. But talk about real quickly, maybe how you got started and what Self Esteem Brands, the concept philosophy is as a parent company.
Yeah, back in 2002, so coming up on 20 years, my partner and I started Anytime Fitness, which was a new business model for the fitness industry, shrinking what used to be multi-purpose health clubs with like racquetballs and pools and saunas and daycares, shrinking it to be fitness only, using technology to enable 24-hour access for members and to streamline it as a business to make it easier for franchisees. And so we started with franchising. It's important to note that my partner and I really didn't have much experience in franchising, but we are gritty guys who are just quick learners, and we just continue to assemble a smart team. And along the way, we have just grown and learned and added capabilities. Today we are nearly 5,000 locations. Half of those are outside the U.S. And as we've grown our fitness company, we really grew these capabilities to be a franchising platform. And so that in about 2010, we formed Self Esteem Brands. That is now the parent company for Basecamp Fitness, The Bar Method, Waxing the City, Anytime Fitness, and Stronger You Nutrition. And aside from Stronger You, which is a virtual nutrition service, the other 4 are franchise brands. So we can leverage our franchising capabilities across all 4 of those brands and open them more effective and efficiently. So Self Esteem Brands is that parent company. Everything we do enriches people. We enrich them through franchising, through employment, and of course through fitness, wellness, and waxing services. So we love what we do every day, and it's a massive challenge and a great opportunity to improve the world.
And obviously there is a main street you're going on when you're adding these brands. It has to do with the self-esteem and making people feel better. And that starts internally, correct?
Yes. Everything we do enriches our consumers, our employees, our franchisees. And that's what, it provides so much meaning to our work every day, because the better we do, the better other people do around the world. And so, it may start with a few steps on a treadmill, but people can literally transform their lives. And we can do it through employment. We can help a serologist, which is essentially a wax technician, do so well that at some point she opens up her own Wax in the City franchise. So in every single thing we do, we're trying to nurture people along and help them improve their lives through our services or through our employment, through our franchising. And that feels good because the better we do, the world needs more of what Self Esteem Brands offers.
And I want to make sure people know I got to see behind the curtain. We've worked together, consulted, spoke at your events. I've written about Chuck and his philosophies and his best practices in the last two books, his amazing culture, in the customer service revolution and the relationship economy. I also want to mention that Chuck is an author of two books. His latest, Love Work, Inspire a High Performance Work Culture at the Center. And he talks about the 4 Ps, which we're going to get into soon. Amazing book. Every manager should read it because his culture that him and Dave have created and his franchise. And listen, I work with a lot of franchisees, franchisor systems, and it can be toxic. In Anytime Fitness, Self Esteem Brands, their franchisees have a love and an alignment towards the purpose of Self Esteem Brand. Unlike any company, I've learned so much more than I've ever taught. I am proud of the Coach Care Connect that we rolled out.
And John, that was about 10 years ago, we created our Please service standards. We have our Credo card, Coach Care Connect. And, as you know, that starts internally. We still do our Please award, like through our peer-to-peer awards recognition inside the office. And then we still do that throughout our entire network. So you helped us shape that, bring it to life. And we still use that today.
Yeah. And the way you roll everything out and the passion behind it and the care. And by the way, I have links in the show notes to Chuck's book, which you got to get, and also Self-Esteem Brands links and all that good stuff. All right, let's get after it. How'd you get started? Oh, you said that. It was 22 years ago. Chuck, with the employee culture, you're obsessed with it. Where did that come from? Did that come from having a poor experience as a employee? Everyone talks about just like customer experience and it's on everyone's website. We're the best. And we know that it's the small minority that really commit to it. You have committed to an employee culture unlike any CEO I've ever known. And you didn't compromise it for growth. And usually, customer experience and employee happiness goes out the window the bigger you get. And you didn't compromise that. Where did that come from?
I think like most people, I've worked in some inspiring and uninspiring cultures. But, John, I love, we learn more about being obsessed about the consumer through our work with you. But I've always believed that, look, you can't expect your consumers to love you if your employees don't. And so everything about the brand's got to start at the corporate office. And we have 3 critical stakeholders. We have our consumers, we have our franchisees, and we have our employees. And I just think a leader these days has to obsess about all 3. And so everything about our brand starts with corporate office. When our franchisees come there for training, they've got to feel that culture so they in turn can take it back to their club, empower their team to do well, and then of course provide a great culture for their members. So I just don't think you can sacrifice one for the other. So we are obsessed about all 3 stakeholders. But if our employees don't love us, how can we expect our consumers to? And then selfishly, I just want to enjoy the workplace every day. We spend over half our waking hours at work. Why not make it enjoyable, challenging, fun, meaningful? We all spend too much time not to enjoy the process. And at the end of the day, a leader is supposed to drive engagement. And I think a great culture engages your employees at a high level, which ultimately leads to performance.
Yeah. So tell us about the 4 Ps.
Yes. So the 4 Ps also came about probably in 2010. As we were growing, we needed to galvanize our culture.
Me, Chuck?
We did not, John. You seem to be the originator of a lot of our great ideas, though.
No, I know you didn't get it from me. I wish you got it from me, but no.
Yes. So as we're trying to bring our culture together, you got to write things down. And so we came up with our vision. We came up with our mission. And actually, candidly, we of course came up with our 12 DNA words at the time. Like most companies have those like core DNA words, but there were 12 of them, and I couldn't remember them. Right? People would say, "What's your 12 words?" And I couldn't remember all 12. So at some point, we just simplified them to 4 words, which is people, purpose, profits, and play. And those 4 words are the ingredients to our high performance here, over the last, 20 years here for Self Esteem Brands. And, we invest in people, whole self-development. We invest in the personal and professional growth of our people. We give everyone a purpose. We tie their work to what happens in Tokyo on a Tuesday, what happens in Tullahoma, Tennessee on a Tuesday, because we know if we work well here, an end user is going to be enriched. Profits. We want to make sure that all of our stakeholders have some type of profit, fair compensation, franchisee profitability. And again, employees love to be part of a winning team. So when the company's profiting and doing well, they love that. And then play. You've been around us, John. We have a great deal of fun at the workplace, no matter how stressful it can be or what the expectations are. We always find time for collaboration, for fun. And I think that leads to curiosity and a little bit of a de-stressed environment. So those 4 Ps are the hallmarks of our brand. And we work them through our strategic planning. We bring them up at our training events. Those are 4 things we live by every day.
People, purpose, profits, and play. And what I like about this, seeing it firsthand in your organization, is it's not only a metric for what type of franchise, leader, employee you want to attract, but it's also a filter to who you don't want to attract, right? Because you do have a funky culture. It's not for everyone, right? If you're a buttoned up guy, CFO, I don't know where you find your CFOs, because, that's, you guys have a crazy culture in a great way, but it's not for everyone.
It is not for everyone, and we make no apologies. And it's okay if it's not. And so we do hire for expertise as much as we hire for culture. Those 2 have to go hand in hand. And, I think it's never been more evident. I've never been more proud of our team than during the pandemic when we had to do a global shutdown. Our team came together like I've never seen. They were so selfless. They worked so hard. They made massive sacrifices. And I think that is when culture has been the most important. When our back was against the wall, when we had to overcome the biggest challenge of our professional careers, our team responded better than Dave and I could have expected. So that's when culture matters. And so I'm really proud. And yes, I think companies don't do a good enough job of being very clear about the attributes they want, not just expertise and intellect, but also for the culture. And I think if you get those 2 right, you are setting yourself up for high performance.
Right. But to your point, culture reflects leadership, and you really see what leaders are made of. And so many leaders wanted to, crawl up in a fetal position. But, we didn't become entrepreneurs, leaders, because we always thought it was going to be great. We wanted to be that guy, that woman, that person, that leader that could fix it when crap hit the fan. But on the flip side, I think there's great opportunity in a crisis or a recession, in a pandemic. To me, a pandemic's like a business enema. It gets rid of the
It flushes it out, John. Right. Thanks for that visual.
Well, but listen, we all get these competitors that hang a shingle and then start doing, they hurt our industry. And, they get cleaned out when this stuff hits. But also, our employees are looking at us because they're scared, and they need to see. And that's what you and Dave did so well. And your whole leadership team is, you said, we're here for you. We got your back. We're not going to let anything happen to you. And that's what I really got from talking to so many of your leaders, which I love. I do want to get into the new state, the pandemic, because one of the things I love about your world that most people can't apply to, most people are B2B, that they can go to a work from home environment. And other companies are all B2C, and they got retail locations, doctor's offices, salons, and they're in that world. You're in both, right?
Yes, correct.
Your Self Esteem Brands headquarters is a B2B. You're serving your locations and your franchisees, but you also have locations. And so you have both. And I want to get to that. But before I get to that, I love your ROEI. If you can talk to us about that, because I believe that's really your secret sauce.
Yeah, most people have heard the term ROI, which is return on investment. That's a a formula for a business to say, all right, if I put in X, I will get Y, right? And our secret's always been ROEI, return on emotional investment. And I think, you want to win the hearts and minds of your stakeholders, your consumers, your franchisees, and your employees. You want to get them emotionally invested in the work. If they care about it, they're going to do better work, and they know that it matters. And so I think, people cry in our workplace often because we care so much. People, as you know, we've had thousands of people get tattoos, consumers, franchisees, employees, because our brand is a part of their life. And so we use that formula, return on emotional investment. We talk about things that make us emotional, that give us goosebumps. We talk about vulnerability. We talk about the change we make in people's lives. And we talk about love, right? I think most leaders are reluctant to use love in the workplace. But think about it. We love our sports teams. We love our college. But yet, why is it not okay to love our work? I mean, we're spending...
four-letter word in corporate, world. I just said recently, you got to fall in love with your employees. And if you, not Harvey Weinstein, right, Weve, but, you literally, and if you can't, they might not be the right employee, right?
Yes.
But anytime someone brings up someone, I say, Jess, oh my God, I have a Jess. I love Jess. I absolutely love her. And I love as much as her husband, Ryan. He's a cop. He's a great guy, and he's always my cornhole partner when we play, right? But I genuinely love my employees, and I always go off on that tangent.
So think about this for a second. We all work, give or take, a couple thousand hours a year, right? Most likely, we're probably working more than that. So if you do that year after year, if you're for employer, and you don't get emotionally attached to that work, if you're not so involved that if something goes wrong, you don't. Sometimes you want to cry. Otherwise you're a robot. I mean, can you imagine being so disengaged? You're doing something 2,000 hours a year and you're disengaged and you don't care. I'm sorry, but that sounds like a miserable experience. And you and I both know Gallup studies still say that 70% of people drive to work every day either feeling neutral or unhappy. Right. And I just can't imagine putting so many hours into something where I was unhappy. And so I love what we do. That's why we titled our book, Love Work. We want our employees to love what they do. It doesn't mean it's easy, by the way. There are stressful days. But if I'm going to put that much time into it, I want my heart and soul into it. I want to really get behind it. And so to us, it's all about emotionally investing in your work as well as intellectually investing in your work.
I do have to mention the tattoos that you brought up. It was on my list. And one of my blog titles is your brand tattoo worthy, right? And what a connection a brand must make. And so when I spoke several times at your annual franchisees conference, but the first time, on break, at lunch, I go into the kind of your trade show with all your vendors, showing their wares and equipment that franchise could try out and bring in. And, they had little people, a few, five people at each.
John, I've made it this far and I've made a joke about little people. I was going to ask if you're sitting on a phone book, but I wasn't going to ask that.
So there's a few people at each booth. And then there's a freaking line. I'm not exaggerating. Over 100 people out the door. I'm like, what are they giving away? Was this a lunch line? No, lunch is down the hall over there. What is this? And it's your employees, franchisees getting tattoos, Anytime Fitness tattoos. And how many employees worldwide?
Well, John, we've lost track. We've done thousands of tattoos. I bet you we've spent over the last 10, 12 years since we've been starting doing it, over $500,000 on tattoos as a company.
And I got an owner listening right now saying, that could go to your bottom line. What are you doing with that? Explain.
Oh, are you kidding me? These stories are gold, baby. I mean, I'll remember these stories for the rest of my life. In fact, there's a club not far from you in Concord Township, Ohio, that has the most tattoos of any Anytime Fitness club in the world. They've got like over 60 of their members who've got the Anytime Fitness tattoo.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It doesn't stop in the employees. No. How many members? Over 1,000, hundreds?
There have been over, collectively, between franchisees, employees, and members, there have been over thousands, even some of our vendors. And they can personalize it any way they want. We pay for it. We have 5 full-time tattoo artists at the conference. We had to create a texting reservation system. That, like you said, it was such a long line. People were missing the seminars to get a tattoo. And so...
is that why no one was in when I was speaking?
Yeah, that is exactly, John. That's exactly why.
Well, here's something I learned, and I realized, man, what a added responsibility when you speak for Anytime Fitness or Self Esteem Brands. So I speak, 1 year, and one of my ending speeches, my ending part that year was, I love these 2 words: give more. Give more in every situation. I really go into it, blah, blah, blah. So, hopefully it connects with people. Next year, you bring me back to the thing, and I get a woman that comes up and pulls up she tattooed it with an Anytime Fitness logo.
Yes. Yeah,
but
I know
was
it is.
Oh my God, I got to be careful what I say, right? Why am I getting, the business enema tattoo?
Yeah. John, I know who you're talking about. She's got the nice little, the purple running man with the give more. I exactly know what you're talking about.
I have a picture of it because it's so cool. So I love that. And, listen, it's the best investment. And it's relative to the size of your company. Like we used to, and we still do, I think, is pay for a vanity license plate for our salon people. And, we had 120. I thought that was great. But we have since gone back and done the same thing. And we have a couple dozen with a JR logo of some sort. If someone's doing permanent ink to them, they're probably not one of the people chasing the Great Resignation.
Exactly right. And you know what? You know this. We're also crazy about purple. If you go to our conferences, like everyone's in purple. We bought you some size 5 pair of purple shoes, if you remember that. And then
they were a little big. They were a little big.
And I remember coming to your annual conference, and then you started to adopt yellow. Is yellow still your color?
You taught me, no, but it was the color of my book that year. But really taught me how important coloring is to branding, right? More internally than anything. But I was like, oh my God, like a sports team, right? If I see
100%
in yellow and black, you're a Steelers fan, right? And that connotation, and I loved it. That was one of the best things. It's funny. Remind me of the gentleman who is your head of New Zealand.
Richard, yes.
Richard. I wore the shoes you sent me on stage when he brought me into New Zealand, and made a joke and asked for. I gave them to him, and he took them. Now I literally walked to my room barefoot in purple socks.
Yeah, exactly. You gave the shoes off your feet, man. I love it. That's
right.
Totally you brought up football. Like, why is it okay to love the Browns or love the Steelers, but not have the same type of passion for your work? I think it's crazy that we don't. And so it's such a great comparison, because we should wear the jerseys and colors of the company we devote 2,000 hours of our life to every year.
Right.
Would you like to lead an organization that hires and retains the top talent? Contact Claudia at DiJuliusGroup.com to learn how the DiJulius Group can help you build a tattoo-worthy culture.
And you've created not only a brand members can't live without, but a brand employees can't live without. And I'm going to throw in 2 quotes to tee up how you are dealing with the Great Resignation in both headquarters and in helping your franchisees deal with it, because we're all struggling. In my salons, in doctors' offices, anyone that's forced to come to a location to be a receptionist or whatever, they still have to come in, can now get a job and work from home and maybe make the same amount per hour. 2 things I say: there's no labor shortage. There's a turnover crisis. And
correct.
Quit hiring people right now and focus on your culture and take care of them. So how do you go about it? Maybe it was easier pre-pandemic, but I also think how we treated our employees pre-pandemic is we're paying for it today, one way or the other.
Yep. John, I tell you what, I'm actually quite enthused about this period we're going through, because I think both great employers now have leverage, and every single employee has more leverage than ever before. And let me explain why. Like, now we can hire people from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, right? And so
your labor pool opened up. I didn't have to work and live in Minneapolis to work for Self Esteem Brands.
I can hire them in Boston. I can hire them in San Francisco, right? And so we can hire anyone, anywhere. And we think culture is like gravity. If you come in contact with it, it pulls you in, and then it retains you, right? It's like gravity. And so we think we have a massive gravitational pull on talented workers. So we think we have an advantage over anyone else in the workplace hiring. And what I love about this is employees now, they do not have to suffer at a job they don't like anymore. Assuming you have marketable skills, you can now go work for any employer that you want. So if you are absolutely in love with a certain industry, you've always wanted to work for a certain employer, your chances now to work for them are higher than ever. I mean, you
And
just
you don't have to
to
move to the West Coast. You
yeah,
can
you don't have
live
to,
in
you can,
Milwaukee where the
yes,
cost of living is lower.
yes. You could live in Bozeman, Montana, right? Some gorgeous place. And
Does that mean
you do
Jessica
your work.
Schneider is going to move back to Cleveland?
Yeah, I think she's becoming a Vikings fan. I think she's,
Well,
hey,
I lost a great salon client that spent a lot of money. That really hurt us when you took her from the Cleveland market and moved her into headquarters.
Yeah, she's great. Jessica's fantastic. But look, what's going on here? I think it's good for both good employers. I want to make clear: if you're a bad employer, this is not a good time for you. But employees have leverage, and great employers have leverage. This is a good thing.
So I'm sure you've heard about this in the news and all these big companies stepping up like Nike and Microsoft and several others, and they're giving all their employees at headquarters a week off. And we absolutely, I believe, our top priority as leaders is to take care of our employee wellness. And
yes.
You know, 1 out of 5 adults are suffering from some type of mental anxiety, depression, and that goes up to 1 out of 3 when you're talking about 30 and younger, right? And that is on us to help with, all the things going on and to recognize that and offer things and I believe teach leaders how to recognize it, which is harder virtually, right? And when I used to pass you at the Keurig, right, in the office hallway collisions, and you were an employee, I could recognize, hey, Chuck, where's the bounce in this step? And we might talk and I could be there. And that's harder to catch virtually now. So Nike giving their employees a week off. Great. I'd love to do that. But where the backlash happens, and I have the same problem with my salon business, is I can't close my salons for a week. So now I'm favoritizing my headquartered corporate office people. And then, I'm pissing off my people that have to come in to the physical locations. What are you doing? How do you handle that?
John, I think you brought up a great point, and I have a different point of view here. And, it's interesting, and I think Nike's gesture was well-intentioned. But look, they know about athletes. I mean, they're in the athletic business. And so they know that great athletes, if they want to improve their muscles, they need to test their muscles, right? If I want to get better at squatting, I need to incrementally add more weight over time to make my legs stronger, right? Pretty common sense. And then there's rest and recovery days. Don't get me wrong. But the brain is a muscle, all right? And so they may have given their employees a week off, but they didn't solve the problem. They're just going to come back to work next week and go right back into the fast lane
and have more work to do. We all know vacations suck because of what we have to do before we go and have to come back to.
Exactly right. So what I would have preferred Nike to do is train give their workplace culture 3 skills to get them through this type of overstress. Number 1 is, and I feel this today in our work, when our team uses the term, we feel overworked, I'm like, stop. Work is infinite. Work is never, ever going to end for as long as we go on. What we are is we are over prioritized. So I want to make very clear, us as leaders and you as your team, we got to decide what are the priorities and what is not. And so therefore, make sure you're working on the right work that's most meaningful for our business and get rid of all the other stuff. We are over prioritized. So number 1, do a better job of prioritizing. Number 2, help them disconnect. I would rather work for an employer that says, Saturday and Sundays, you are no emails. We do not expect you to do work. We do not expect you to work at the office, maybe even during the week. Create some disconnect rules so that when your employees are off, they are really off. I mean, they help them with their work-life balance. And then number 3, I really want people to understand how physical activity alleviates stress. And so your entire body is a muscle. And so we've got to find a way to balance making it stronger, yet giving it recovery, being able to disconnect. I think those are the life skills we need because the world's not going to get any less stressful. The work is not going to become any less. Nike's going to be busier than hell. They're always going to have more work. How are they going to help their employees once they come back to work? I don't know if it's going to be any different. And so we're going through those issues today, but I don't think just giving you a few days off works. I would rather have a new workflow process, have a new disconnect process, have a new culture that helps me 3 months from now get through what's going to be a very stressful time.
I love this. There's a couple things I really want to key in on. I love virtually, I just read it and wrote about this for our virtual employees to help them have a clear end of the work day, right? Because we can, work continuously. And so maybe you say, hey, I don't want to see any email or Slack, whatever your communication after 6 p.m. or on the weekends or whatever.
Correct.
And then the other thing, I think is important is teaching employees virtual. They've all picked up a 25th hour in the day, right? Commute time.
Yes.
How to utilize that, right?
Yes.
And now the one thing I really liked about what you do, but most businesses aren't in your industries, right? So you're always advocating the physical wellness and the benefits of that, where most businesses aren't, but we do. And so one of the things that we try to do, and we copy this from great business, is show them how they can get the most beneficial of that extra hour instead of maybe sleeping in, which sleep is important, but yoga, get a walk in, all those things. So that extra hour is helping them in a wellness standpoint, in a physical standpoint. And, you guys, that naturally comes to you because that's what you promote and all do it. But a lot of our listeners, we have to remember our employees aren't ingrained in the benefits of working out and eating right and all those things.
You're 100% right, John. And so we do provide like workshops on nutrition, even financial discipline. I mean, things that will help them, give them skills in life as well as at work. And then lastly, I think it's so important for leaders to role model this. I've made changes. I used to be the guy who, as a leader, would find some interesting article or like email my leadership team on a Saturday or Sunday. And sometimes I'd just say FYI or no need to respond. But guess what? Our team read it. They were always on. They were responding. And I'm like, Chuck, why am I doing this? They need their time off. And so I rarely send any more of those emails on weekends. Rarely. And I really, if there's something at 8 o'clock at night I want to respond to, I'll check myself and say, wait a second. What's going to happen between now and tomorrow morning?
Monday.
Nothing. So guess what, Chuck? Send this tomorrow morning, like put it in my draft folder.
Right.
And so I'm
Love
leaders
that.
have to model this.
I'm guilty of it. And you made me realize this. I was really proud that I tell all my employees, I do a lot of work on weekends. That's my catch-up time. Yep. I will blow up your Slack. I do not want you replying. And most or all of them don't, but that's still a burden, right? And you're right. You telling me this probably made me realize they're probably still checking to see what it is. Am I fired? Am I promoted? Am I in trouble? Did we get a complaint?
And they're thinking about it.
Yes.
It's weighing on them. So no, they can no longer be present.
Right. I got to get up early Monday because John, sent me 10 messages. And yes. You just made me realize I need to withhold. While it's convenient for me to get it off my chest at noon on Saturday, it's not right.
You know what I figured out, John, is they can forget about it Saturday and maybe a little bit, but it ruins their Sunday night. Yes. And I didn't want it to ruin their Sunday night anymore. And so I'm just like, I just now try to send it on a Monday morning. And look, there are times I still break that rule, but generally, like I'm 90% better than I used to be. And it's just not that critical, right? And if it's really important, I will text them versus email. But guess what? Usually nothing's that important. So yeah, you get it.
So let's still live in the virtual world before we go to the physical world, which is its own challenge. And I'm asking really to because these are our challenges. How do you replicate virtual energy, right? I mean, and the office hallway collisions. So I was just thinking about this today. I was talking to one of our consultants, Jess Pischel, and she started 4 or 5 years ago, and she was 26. And we were talking about if she would have started in the past 2 years. I think what happened 5 or 6 years ago, like I'm sure it happens with you, is, they look at the CEO, president, assume whatever they assume bosses to be. But then when you have those casual conversations, happen to be eating lunch, they're like, he's a real guy and he cares. Yes. But we start talking about if she would have started in the past 18 months, she wouldn't have gotten to know me on that way. I might have been on some virtual meetings, Taskmaster. Hey, where's this? Why aren't we, this? Why are we slipping here? And not saying, hey, Jess, and again, recognizing that she got beat up by a customer and pick her up saying, I still get beat up by customers. How do we replicate the virtual energy? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think first of all, I don't know if I've cracked the code. We're a student of this. I do think our 4 Ps that we talked about earlier, does work in a virtual world. But let me give you an example that I think is tough to find in virtual. When we were during COVID, when we had our leadership meetings and they would be from like 9 to noon, everyone logs in at 9 o'clock. And when you take a break, everyone turns their camera off, they go to the restroom, they log off, and then they log back in 10 minutes later when the meeting starts, right? You get done at noon and everyone logs off and they go back to their work. When we've had in-person meetings now, everyone gets there, 10 or 15 minutes early. We're having coffee. We're having, we're talking about life. We're getting to know each other. We're talking, maybe it's work. Maybe we're talking about life. And then during the breaks, we all kind of linger and we all talk to each other some more. And in those conversations, that's where some of the magic happens.
The
We're
rabbit
building up
holes.
trust.
Rabbit holes
that are critical. And so like, I'm like, in my head, subconsciously, I'm like, gosh, I really like Johnny. He's kind of funny. And we build this like nonverbal warmth and trust with each other that is glued to our
boys that, they're driving us crazy right now.
Yes. And so that little thing bonds us, and therefore we work better together in the future, right? And so I got to tell you, we have not yet cracked the code on how to solve that virtually. I think it's tough. We're working at it. That's why I think we have to be a hybrid. We've got to find some of that time in person, because you just can't replicate that in a virtual environment, not yet anyways. And we do monthly town halls now where all of our employees are on a virtual, and we share stories and we bring our play and we show videos. But there's nothing that can just replicate.
One thing we've tried to do that we've learned that helps, but we have to stay more intentional. Every week we have I don't know what the team calls it, but it's a no agenda, check-in exactly for that. Because if we have an agenda today, like a physical meeting, we, chop, we got to get to, C, D, and there's no time for those rabbit holes. So we do have, a touch base with no agenda. So hopefully the innocuous conversations can come up, but to our detriment, they've gotten boring. We sit there and stare at each other. Chuck, you got any plans this weekend? No. All right, guys, I got a lot of work to do, versus trying to have, and something that we were working on today for this is let's have, the DiJulius Group trivia one week where, it's fun, or it could be Ford trivia. Who played hockey in high school, who, has a daughter at Loyola, whatever that may be. San Diego State, and it helps, but it's still hard to replicate those innocuous Keurig conversations.
And look, nonverbal communication is so critical. You just don't pick up on all that on Zoom. Heck, our attire, our expression, our energy, right? You get it. And so we do, we have side rooms for people going to and chat. But at the end of the day, it's not the same as in person. So we're doing our best. We're trying to crack the code. But I think that's ultimately why I think a company is going to need hybrid to operate at its very best, in my opinion.
All right, now I want to pivot, to the retail, right? You have over 4,000. How many locations you have?
5,000 global between all the brands. 5,000 locations globally. 5,000,
right? And when they were allowed to open, and it was different in every country and state, they had to be open. So I'm sure, like most of the world, before this, we fought with the gig economy, right? In my first business, hair salons, what's hurting the traditional hair salons most is that there's such an enormous, people going to these booth rents, renting a chair and taking it with you. And I know that's always been a challenge in fitness. Well, you make me busy. I'm a personal trainer. I'm sick of making you rich. I'm going to, go do this on my own. But this is only heightened, right? The gig economy. I believe the pandemic is just an accelerant to what was going to come anyway. So we have that. We also have people that, are uncomfortable returning to a physical space and may look for a job that can work from home. How do you attack both? How do you help your franchisees attack both? So, they're not near the industry average of labor shortage, turnover, all that.
Yeah. I think you and I have discussed that term intrapreneur, which means that like our wax technicians, our personal trainers, our bar instructors are like entrepreneurs, meaning that if I, as an owner, can help build their book of business, if I drive to work every day thinking, how can I help our personal trainers be massively successful? If I think like I'm working for them, that changes the game, because I'm helping them be successful. They think it's more of a partnership. I don't want my personal trainers to think they work for me. That's the opposite. That's how most employers think. I want to drive to work thinking I'm here to make my team better. Like I build the team builds the business. So first of all, change the game and your language and how you think about it. And then number two is like invest in them to build their book of business. And generally, I think the long game is you will have loyalty, you will have high performing service workers. And sure, will some people leave you over time? It's inevitably going to happen. That happens to all of us. But your turnover will be lower and you'll have much longer term, loyal, high performing people. So just change your mindset. You work for them. They don't work for you. And if you build their book of business, they will stay longer.
How did you help your franchisees? They were panicking. That was an ugly time. We were lucky in Ohio. It was 2.5 months. In some states, in some countries you're in, it was, a crazy amount of time.
We still have 600 clubs closed today. So we have 25% of our international market is still closed right now.
Yeah. How do you help those people? How do you help them help their employees through this?
Yeah.
How do you help them from jumping off, the bridges?
So our formula was this, is when we talk to our franchisees, is the first thing we got to talk about is how do we support our members and our clients, right? I mean, they're home too. They're going through some, their kids are at home doing homeschooling. They got to worry about their parents. How do we provide them, content, coach, care, and connect? We can do this virtually. So number one is how do we do them? Because we don't want to lose them. We don't want to lose that connection. Number two, how do we help that franchisee navigate employment issues, navigate shutdown, navigate reopening? And I am so proud of our team. Throughout our network, we negotiate over $400 million of rent relief and also the federal and state relief funds. And so we did a really good job of working with our franchisees to make sure they got as much relief as possible, including rent and all the various relief, the PPP programs. And then we worried about our employees here at the corporate office. I mean, how we could help them. And so that was our formula: consumer first, franchisee second, us third. And there's nothing we could do during a shutdown, but once we reopened, we were helping them think about all the social distancing protocols, all the cleaning, issues that needed. We created a reservation system so people could reserve their spot at the gyms. So we really did a good job of supporting our network in whatever way we could to help them close down safely and reopen safely as soon as possible.
That's awesome. One of the things I wrote about in my most recent book, The Relationship Economy, about self-esteem brands, is something that every company, we're dealing with a big bank, every big company, whether it's a franchisee's model or not, that have units, locations, employees out there in different parts of the city, is typically they're trying to improve the experience that their operations deliver. They even try to, and they're successful at this, improve the employee morale. Okay. But the one thing they miss that you do so good, and I used you as a great example, I've done this, is the world-class experience starts at home. And what I mean by that is headquarters. And so many companies, when a general manager, a franchisee, whatever the thing is, calls IT at headquarters or HR or whatever about something, they get treated like they're an interruption instead of the reason why they have a job. And, I walk in and to some, headquarters and you can't get greeted. And I'm like, wait, you're expecting your locations to greet the member, customer, client, patient upon arrival, yet I have to send off a flare gun to try to get, your headquarter receptionist to look up. And, and that's why I use you guys as an example, because it starts at headquarters and you do such a great job of the way you support and the experience you give your operations.
John, thank you for that. And I'll say this, we need to go back to it. We've been so caught up in COVID and supporting our consumers and franchisees that we need to get back to doing some more internal training here at the corporate office. And we've added a lot of new headcount. And so, we've added those people without the onboarding with that philosophy. So just you talking about it reminds me that we've got some more work to do because we're not as consistently high performing in the area you describe as we used to be. So I'm just being candid.
You made me realize I got to stop slacking everyone on Saturday and Sunday.
Exactly.
We're always learning. Offer Lisa, your executive assistant, a job. She's amazing.
I will beat you up if you steal her. I'm going to send Dave over. He can beat you up. I can't.
Yeah, you can. This is awesome, Chuck. I appreciate it so much. One of the best parts of my job is the people I get to meet and see, again, behind the screens, the way your employees look at you. I've met your incredible wife, Shannon, the way you talk about your 4 kids. It's really cool. I really appreciate it. I'm also really proud how much I've taught you and all this information you now have because of meeting me. No, I'm kidding. You've taught me so much more than I could ever teach you. I don't know why I charged you. It should have been the other way around. But you continue to amaze me personally and professionally. You've always been, just so generous with your time. Thank you so much. Any parting thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Just, I'd love to echo those same sentiments, John. We have learned from you quite a bit. You have enriched our franchise by making us definitely more consumer obsessed. And I've sent our teams to your conference, which is coming up. And so it is an incredible event. I just thank you for your friendship and for taking great care of us. So appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, Chuck. Chuck Runyon, you got to click on the link, go to Amazon, get his book. Love Work. Inspire a higher performance work culture at the center of people, purpose, purple too, profits, and play. There is no one that I know that creates a better work culture that people jump out of bed and want to come work for. And it's not about the pay. It's about, the people, purpose, profits, and play. Thank you so much, Chuck. Thank you, Revolutionaries, for joining me for another episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. We will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. Did you enjoy this episode? Consider leaving us a review. We value your feedback and love to hear how you're using the podcast in your organization. To hear more, be sure to subscribe now on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for being part of the Customer Service Revolution.